Hello again. This is eNCA on DSTV channel 403. Thank you very much for joining us. While we are waiting, of course, for that final announcement of the local government elections results by the IEC at 6 o'clock, we take a look at other stories that we are also tracking this afternoon here on eNCA. One of them is about the Commonwealth, which has stated its priorities at the COP26 summit. Its Secretary General is leading a delegation there to advocate for the interest of the 54 member countries. We're joined now by Secretary General Patricia Scotland. Ma'am, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Welcome to eNCA. Why is it important for the Commonwealth as a grouping to have its place at this COP26 summit?
I'm really sorry that I lost the sound, so I hope you can hear me. I think you were asking me about the priorities for the Commonwealth. As you know, Commonwealth is made up of 54 countries, 2.6 billion people, 70% of whom are under the age of 30. And climate change has been a critical issue for all our member states, really as far back as 1989, when the Commonwealth identified this as an existential threat to many of our member states, particularly our small, developing member states who are hugely vulnerable to climate. And so we are here to encourage the Commonwealth mission to enable the world to take advantage of the reality that we are all facing in terms of the crisis that is climate change. We want to commit to delivering the Paris agenda, but also to encourage those who have made the commitment for $100 billion to assist in mitigation and adaptation to deliver on that promise. And we are encouraging and asking all of those who've made those commitments to make 50% of it directly referable to adaptation, not just mitigation. And we are hoping that they will be listening, because we are now at code red. And there's no more time, and we have to act. We have to act now.
Now, Secretary General, I hope you can hear me now. You said you couldn't hear my face. Oh, great. So the Commonwealth, as a grouping of these 54 member states, many of whom are developing, and you've got young populations there, what kind of initiatives are they looking to from the Commonwealth in line with the climate change global drive?
Well, really, they're saying, you know, the money that's promised, we have to actually see it, taste it, and be able to deliver it. And so what we've done, we've created the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub. That is putting climate finance advisors in countries to assist member states, not just to make applications to agencies like the Green Fund to get money, but also to build capacity, to build the knowledge and the expertise and the ability to create policies that will make a difference. So already, with just a tiny amount of money, £1.5 million, we've already delivered into the hands of our member states $44.1 million, but we have $762 million in the pipeline, and we want to ramp it up. So just today, we were talking with our partners, the NDC Partnership and NORAD, and saying, how can we do more? How can we make sure that our member states actually have the money that they need in order to be the difference that they want to make? And so there is so much for us to do, but we are doing it. We've also created a climate finance disaster center so that we are able to help our member states know how they can get the money also to build back better after disasters and to prepare for disasters more effectively. And we've created common sensing, which is our ability to use spatial data to really understand what is happening. You'll know that South Africa and Southern Africa has suffered so badly in recent years from drought. We now have more than 45 million people in Southern Africa who are no longer food secure. So we have to make a difference with that. And right now, we've been talking with our member states about creating something we're calling Call for the Living Lands. We have 3 Rio conventions, which are particularly focusing on land. But we haven't just got to say it, we've got to do it. And so we're doing that here now too.
Yeah, I mean, you're touching on issues of land. I mean, it's sustainable management is important. You mentioned money there in terms of funding and financing. You got smaller states, and then the issue of energy transition. Just the other day, President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa here of South Africa announcing this big deal with a number of countries in the world of about 131 billion rand to help South Africa transition from coal, the use of coal in terms of firing our energy needs to go to renewable resources. Now you've got other smaller states. I mean, you've got other smaller states, as you said. Africa, you've got about 18, I think, member states. You've got South Africa, you've got Nigeria.
19.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of African presence in the Commonwealth. And yes. How can this continent benefit from your efforts as the Commonwealth?
Well, the wonderful thing is we share so much in common. We have the same language, we have the same legal system, we have the same democratic system, and all of that gives us a positive advantage. We've worked out that in trade terms, we've got about a 21% trade advantage when we trade with each other. But we had, just before 2019, about £700 billion worth of intra-Commonwealth trade. Now, that has been impacted, as you know, by COVID-19, which has so dramatically impacted on our lives and our livelihoods. But we are relatively confident that we can together, particularly taking advantage of the continental free trade area in Africa, rebuild that intra-Commonwealth trade. We hope by next year we could be back to 700 billion US dollars in terms of intra-Commonwealth trade, but we are committed to developing that trade so we can get 2 trillion by 2030. But a lot of that trade has to be blue and it has to be green if we are to meet the commitments that we're making on climate change. And Africa is a real opportunity to drive. You know, the next Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting is going to be held in Kigali, in Rwanda next year. And so there are huge commitments that our member states are coming together. And I'm so glad that you mentioned our small states. We have 32 small, developing, vulnerable states in our Commonwealth family. And we also have 14 least developed countries. And you know, many of our African brothers and sisters live in some of the least developed countries. So coming together, the rich ones, the poor ones, those who are squeezed in the squeezed middle, sharing what we know, sharing what works, sharing what does not work, so that we can fulfill our commitments on the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agenda is critical, because we are now on climate at code red.
Secretary General, before I let you go, and very briefly, when you walk away from Glasgow, from this COP26 summit there, as the Commonwealth who represents all these states that you have so eloquently described for us now, what would success look like? What is the Commonwealth hoping to take out of this and say, it was worth you being there, it was worth you having that pavilion that you hosted there for the first time?
I think if we can come away saying that we have delivered the 100 billion that we need, and that we actually have real money on the table, and 50% of it is committed to adaptation, but also that all the people we're talking to, the people who are coming to our pavilion, the people who are saying to us, all of them actually deliver on their promises, that will be success.
Thank you very much, Secretary General of the Commonwealth. That's Ms. Patricia Scotland. We appreciate your time, ma'am, and good luck with the plans there for the Commonwealth. South Africa is part, of course, as we know, of this grouping.